Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be with you again today, and we've got a lot of material to cover in a short period of time. We are on part 3, and with part 3 of this series on getting the words right on our web page, I want to show you something. I'm going to put you to work immediately. It's good to see you, Elad, and the rest of you I see coming in, David and Christy and so on. But take a look now. In 1 second, I'm going to click, and when I do, or in a few seconds, I'm going to click. When I do, I'm only going to give you a few seconds to absorb that paragraph and tell me what it says. Ready? Here we go. And you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, let's stop. Take your chat feature. Can anyone explain to me the gist of that paragraph in short set of words? Hi, Bill. So you saw the paragraph a moment ago. I gave you more than the time someone's going to take to absorb it. And Andrew Layton says, nope. And Dave Fogel says, what just happened? And Cynthia says, yikes. And Elad says, no way. We have a problem. Let's go back again. I'm going to give you one more chance. Here we go. I'll go back again and give you 5 more seconds and see if you can figure this one out. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. You want to try again? Coke flooded the market, said Sean. That's a good guess. In-store demos, someone said. No, but Cynthia, you're not wrong. The writer's wrong. Someone else says, not a chance. Now listen to me. That is the key headline from a major agency promoting a new breakthrough in marketing based on an interesting, truly interesting study performed by Coca-Cola. But did you catch that? Coca-Cola European partners flood. Now stop for just a moment. We have a compound subject, and if you look at this and start to connect to what we taught last week, and I have the main points from last week in front of me, me-centric structure, qualified modifiers, vague claims, impersonal language, untrustworthy tone, absent transitions. Think about those errors. Coca-Cola European partners flood 32170 measured buyers. Did you hear that? That far in, onto the second line, and we still do not have story click. Measured buyers into retail outlets. Now, what is wrong with this? Using new, little-known, vendor-level, do you see these compound words? These modifiers that don't make a lot of sense, little-known, vendor-level, ad tech, during recent launch. The person who wrote this knows what they're trying to say. But the person reading it will not give this headline enough time to start to sort it out. You need to almost diagram that sentence to figure out the subject and the predicate. So let me ask you this question. Somebody tell me, what's the subject? All right, I'm watching. Nobody's real clear, and I understand that. What's interesting is that the main idea of this paragraph, yes, the subject predicate design of this sentence indicates its flaw. Partners, I think, yeah, let me make sure it's right. I'm reading it right. Flood. Yeah, partners flood. So there you go. Subject, predicate. Coca-Cola is not the subject. It is a modifier. Coca-Cola European, these are modifiers, but the essential subject back to grammar school is partners. Now, hold on, marketer. If you're here now and you weren't in the other 2 of these sessions and you're wondering where we're going with all this, I want to give you an example of how this problem arises in our web pages. But first of all, I just want to point out a couple of things that tie into what we learned in the last 2 weeks. Notice using new, little-known, vendor-level ad tech. What's the most interesting part of this paragraph? let me jump to the answer that there's this new, little-known technique, let's call it that, or technology. So that's the main thing. In fact, that's what this is all about, and that's what the article is all about. But then they add another prepositional phrase on top of that, during recent launch. Completely redundant, unnecessary, and thus bearing the main essence, the primary draw. We're going to come back to that word draw. We're going to talk about this today in a new way. But the primary draw is lost in the middle of vague words with too many modifiers and too many stacked prepositional phrases. And herein is a marketing publication. Look, digital advertising, an advertising group, and this is the lead article. And this is how they're supposed to draw you in. Now, when you keep that in mind, I want to show you a man who would never make this mistake. A genius of a marketer, and see if you can recognize his name by looking at his face. Does anyone know who this is? Hello, Sarvi. Good to have you with us. Heinrich, good to see you back. All right, so we're not going to fix that paragraph. I just wanted you to get a sense of the challenge. The question today is, how do we correct the problem? How do we make these words on our pages produce the right stimulus in our brains? And to do that, I want to show you a genius who surprised everyone. Anybody have an idea who it is? Forgot the name, somebody says. The writer of scientific marketing. It looks like Claude Hopkins. That's Eli, that's Claude Hopkins, but no, it's not him. All right. Well, let me tell you a few hints and see if you can figure this out. So here's this man, and we know that he ran an intelligence operation, and it was called 30 Assault Unit. We also know that he ran another unit called T-Force. We also know that he was engaged in clandestine activities for British intelligence. Anybody figured out who he is yet? I'm going to call him a brilliant communicator, and in a sense, a brilliant marketer. But that's not what he's known for. Dave Fogel has shed light on the subject. I quote, "I know it's not Chuck Norris." No, it's not Chuck Norris. It is Ian Fleming. And Ian Fleming, thank you, Sean. Thank you, Luke. Ian Fleming sold 100 million copies of his books. And he did that by understanding the fundamental nature, the fundamental psychology of communication. Indeed, he was really an agent before he penned the famous James Bond series. His first book, I think, was Casino Royale, back in the 50s, maybe 1952. And he became an immediate success. All of these Bond characters are acting out the writing, the story, and the plot line devised by this former agent. In fact, one of his, you might find this interesting, one of the names for one of his intelligence operations was, in real life, I'm talking about Ian Fleming, was a name you may have heard of, GoldenEye. So, clearly in the later movies, GoldenEye became a villain, I think, if I remember correctly. But what's more important is that you go with me and ask yourself a simple question. What does Ian Fleming have to do with fixing this problem? Indeed, let me ask the question differently. Take this problem, and what can we learn from Ian Fleming, and in particular from the James Bond series, to correct a problem I'm seeing everywhere? So take a look at this. What you're seeing now is something I call apple stacking. And I'm going to ask Austin Spence on my right-hand side to pull up some web pages that show apple stacking. Now, Austin, can you just scroll down through this first one? So go ahead. This was submitted by a member of our audience. Stop for a second. I want you to notice there's a number of ideas stacked on top of each other but they don't have any transition or connectors. Keep going, Austin. All right. Now, Austin, take me to another site that was submitted. These are all sites submitted by our audience. So scroll down, and you're going to see interesting pieces of information, but they are disconnected, and thus they simply hang there on the page. Show me one more, Austin. We're going to stop with this one. Now, this is a good example. So this is probably a good organization. Wait, practical guides will help you achieve the success you want. Lots of articles packed full of helpful information. Keep going. Founder Kim J. Harrison gives you information and many ideas for better results. Now notice, find out more. Notice, browse articles. Then above that, let's see what it is. Browse our guides. Now I've got 3 different calls to action. I'm not sure what that means or where they go, but keep going. Scroll down. Join 5,000 subscribers to our free newsletter. Is there any more? Is that the bottom? All right, so this is another page, not doing it nearly as poorly as I've seen it done by Apple. Yes, by Apple, and by all those who copy Apple. In fact, go back to my slide. This is a long page that's been extended so that you can see all the boxes stacked on top of each other. Now, behind this kind of page design is a fundamental lack of understanding. And that lack of understanding is why we're getting 80% of our words wrong on our web pages. And to help you to understand that, I'm going to take you to a picture of a real funnel. This is from one of my research partners. Their name has been blurred out at the top, but you can see that these are the actual steps in the funnel, and depending on your choice, you go here or you go there. We had to map this funnel so that we could build a design of experiments. I want you to understand it because there's an assumption when we see a funnel like this that is deadly to our marketing success. And that assumption is that people will naturally follow this path we've laid out. They may go this direction, let's say to the right, because they can't go any other way. That's the only path in front of them. But just because that's the only way forward doesn't mean they're actually going to take the step forward. Indeed, our people are falling out of our funnels at ratios that are terrifying. So what is it that you're going to learn today that can help you correct the problem and draw more people from the beginning of your conversation, the beginning of your funnel, all the way through? To answer that, I've got to move swiftly and teach multiple concepts. Are you ready? All right? This is not a conversation about anxiety. That is an inhibitor. This is not a conversation about friction. We've done this, we've taught this in other places. Let's assume your site had no friction or no anxiety, you would still have the problem we're going to talk about today. Now, if you can get the friction and the anxiety minimized, you make it easier for people to move forward. But that does not give them impetus. Let's talk about that for a second. You that are understanding of physics, if I let go of this book, what's going to happen? Somebody tell me quickly. I'm using the chat feature. What is it going to do? And while you're answering that, somebody answer this question. And what is the force that causes this book to drop? Somebody tell me quickly. I'm watching. I know it takes you a moment to catch up. Gravity kicks in, someone said. Gravity is that. And so when I take the book, you'll probably hear it. I don't think you can see it, but I'm going to drop it. I'll take it over here where it's in the camera. Yeah. So right here, I let go and this book drops. Indeed, I just bent it up. Let's try to drop it flat. Boom. All right, there's the book. Now, the guy who figured out what's really going on here changed the world. Because, it's not as if this book is magnetized. Why does the book fall down? Now, you need to ask that question because until Isaac Newton framed the question right and started to think and calculate, we didn't learn critical principles that now allow us to send a rocket into outer space. And Newton asked an important question. Why does the book fall? And I want to ask a question, not comparing myself to Newton. I'm inspired by him. He was one of the greatest scientists in the history of the world. But I'd like to ask you a question today. why are people falling out of your funnel? Don't tell me it's friction. That's not why they're falling out. That may keep them from moving forward, but that's not why they're falling out. In fact, I know funnels with lots of friction and lots of anxiety, and people are blasting through them. So I ask you another question. I ask you the same question, but think about it now today about your website. Why are people failing to complete the funnel journey? Why are they falling out? Now, when you ask that question, Newton thought about some other laws. You know this one, the law of gravity you learned in school, and he learned about the laws of motion. But I want to give you one of Newton's laws, and by the way, this isn't in our notes. It's not in our preparation. If I misquote the honorable scientist, you'll have to forgive me. I'm doing it purely from memory. But I do recall, I think, that one of his rules, one of his laws, is an object in motion, what? Does anybody remember that? An object in motion, what? Austin over here on the right has it. Somebody joining us by the internet, tell me. All right. Sean, I'm assuming they're in your funnel. We'll talk about the lift in just a minute. So that's a good point. Stays in motion, tends to stay in motion. That's correct. But what happens with an object in rest? Does it tend to move forward on its own? No. So you've got to get that object moving and then eliminate any of the forces or reduce them that keep it from moving. The combination, now hear me, because this is serious and this will produce results in your funnel. The combination of momentum, something's got to establish the momentum. That combination of momentum with the reduction of elements like friction gives you the opportunity to get more people all the way through your funnel. Now, when you think about the funnel in terms of physics, it'll start to make sense what I'm going to start to share with you today. But first, go back to that slide, if you would, Cliff. This is the problem as I am speaking to you. Billions of dollars are leaking out of our funnels around the world, probably hundreds of billions of dollars, because we have not adequately understood these principles and applied them in our communication. There are geniuses who never read a book on communication that were brilliant. This Ian Fleming had a very specific technique he employed in order to get you to watch his film. We're going to talk about that technique in a moment, but I'm going to start now to teach you basically the first of two principles. The first one is understanding, and let's just go there, the elements of funnel momentum. We're going to talk about that, and then we're going to talk about the elements of copy momentum. I have 3 subpoints under the elements of funnel momentum. You see them in front of me. We're going to go through them in a moment. Actually, what you're looking at on the screen now is my entire outline for the day and all of my notes. I dictated and scratched to get to the point where I can talk to you about today, and I want to turn those scratches into meaning for you. I'll begin by addressing something you have already heard, but stay with me because we're going to take it to a place you haven't. I'm going to begin by reminding you that at MECLABS, we do not believe in this version of the funnel because it distorts reality. People are not falling into your funnel. And when we teach people this sort of visual in school, we don't truly represent the task of the marketer. Now, by the same token, what's really happening and can best be understood is that people are falling out of our funnel. And if we turn the funnel, if we invert it, we're in a position where we can start to understand what the task of marketing is. You've heard me teach this, but I'm going to get very specific with the 3 forces that will get people up that funnel. And I want to point out that it's not a journey like this. That is parallel. And I am not taking tiny steps on this journey towards the end of your funnel. Only when we tilt that line up do we start to see what's really going on. Indeed, I have it tilted all the way up in this instance. And what you really see is that if 100 go into your funnel, in many cases, you're fortunate to get 1 or 2 all the way up. So this little diagram points to these 3 elements that we need to understand today. And by the way, I'm going to show you with real case studies some examples of these, and if we have time, I'm going to tear down a site with it and help you to understand that as well. I want to say something to two of the people, I don't have their names in front of me, from last week's live op. They were very gracious and kind, and I appreciate you not being offended when I'm thinking like a customer or a prospective customer and working through your site. We'll come back to that. What I want to do now is simply say this. To get a human being, let's imagine that this funnel were real in the world today and that there's some means of going up. But to go up the funnel, I have to somehow exert a force this way. And more importantly, that force is going to struggle against gravity, which is dragging them out of the funnel. Now, if you understand it in that context, I'm going to go back to the board, erase all of this, and start to teach this point by simply saying this. Today, there are three forces, and these three forces really have the greatest impact on whether or not people start to move up the funnel. So you need to think of it as this way, and I'm gonna let Cliff take us over. But first of all, the obvious one is this. Motivation, let this M represent motivation. You got to understand the principle of motivation as internal draw. All right, now, what do I mean by as internal draw? The number one reason people will go through your funnel is that they're highly motivated by something on the end that they really want. Now, I've said before that Apple has that advantage, and we can talk more about that later, but they have other advantages. And so when you copy Apple, you don't get the same result they have because you don't have the internal draw. I mean, where's my phone? I guess I can't carry it here, but you all have a phone. You know what it looks like. That phone is technology that a few years back would have cost $20 million. Today, a young man in the Congo, say a 10-year-old, has more computing power at his fingertips than the President of the United States did 20 years ago. That's a pretty appealing component, to carry that kind of power around with you, and really its particular applications, being able to communicate and do all the things that you can do. So some products appeal to a strong motivation, and this may not be because the product is amazing. It may be because you have amazing problems you're trying to overcome. Until you experience a particular problem, you don't have motivation. Until your need, hear me, becomes a want, you still may not move. A lot of us know friends and have friends who have many needs, but they're not acting to solve those problems. They're not acting to meet those needs. I mean, for many, I was teaching for an extended period of time over several days, and I had a shoelace gone in my Oxford wingtip that I was teaching in. I rarely wear wingtips. In fact, I wear sandals underneath, even with my suits. But I had wingtips on, and my shoelace was gone. I needed to replace that. It annoyed me, but not bad enough to actually do all the work to go find another shoelace. And so I walked around and taught for several days. I think it was in New York, with one shoelace missing in a shoe. Should I have got it? Maybe, but it did not reach the point inside where the need became a want. Now come back to what we're going to learn here together. Think about this for a second and understand that brand is stored momentum or stored equity. So I'm going to put brand is stored. I'm going to use the word momentum. It's attention equity, but I'll use the word momentum. And now you start to see MB. Now, I got 4 more principles, so this has got to be dense and this has got to be fast, all right? But brand happens, its power comes from the expectation associated with the symbol of the offering. If for a long time when you saw the Apple brand, it stood for people who think differently, and it stood for a cool kind of product experience that was unmatched in the world. That is not true today, and Apple's in trouble. But they'll be okay for a long time with their brand momentum carrying them through much of their problems. One of the reasons you find the greatest marketers today rarely exist at the enterprise level in a giant company is because those people those people in those big companies have brand momentum that covers for a multitude of horrific mistakes. But you take an entrepreneur that carves something out of nothing and turns it into a $50 million business, they've had to learn how to market without the aid of a great brand covering many mistakes. Now, I think you've heard some of this. I know David Carey's on the line. David, I know you've heard this. Where I'm going, though, ultimately, is to a series of principles that will show you how Ian Fleming could get people through your funnel. So let's go. M for motivation, B for brand. Let me give you an example of brand and an example of motivation. Take a look at this case study. This is perplexing. Look at version A and version B and give me a vote. Which one do you think will produce the highest response rate, A or B? I'm going to give you about 10 seconds to vote. So this is a fundraiser for a college. This is a page where you can make a donation. And I've got B, 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 a lot of B's. All right, I see one A and the rest are all B's. Now I want to pause for a second. If I was working with you in our environment, we would ask you to give us the reason you chose that, and then we would take your reason and discipline it with a hypothesis. But I want to share with you that B bombed. B actually hurt conversion by 24%. Now, Cliff, go full screen if you haven't already. Doesn't matter what the words say, and it's right for you to choose B. In fact, that would be most skilled marketer's choice. But here's why B didn't work. This study was not performed by me. It was performed by one of my students who's now set up a business with not-for-profits, and he's doing a wonderful job. His name is Tim. And if you look at these two side by side, what you're starting to see is that the person coming to this place was very familiar with the brand. It's a big brand in its space, and they were highly motivated. So when you took the extra energy on B to provide more sales copy, what you actually did was get in the way of someone highly motivated who was already ready to make a donation. So the trick here, the danger here, is that somebody not understanding the power of brand and motivation to create powerful momentum thought that they would help the page by adding value. But we didn't need any more value. In fact, the value in this case becomes friction. It's friction because it causes resistance inside. You don't want to read this, have to go through this. You're just here to make a donation. So be very careful that when you do something like this, you don't make the mistake of thinking, well, there's not enough value. That depends on the power of motivation and the power of brand working on behalf of the offer. But let's look at the power of brand in more detail. So here is a case study. It's the Boston Globe. 2 sites. I want you to see how similar they are. And then I want you to see the steps. It's quite a few steps. This is a subscription process. Now I want you to see the same process, no change except that at the top. Wait, see that? So what's the difference? And you can see it's at the top of each of the steps. Let's go back. Down here it's not, it's subscriber. Now they knew, you would think they know where they're at. They navigated to the globe to get here. But take a look, when we add that name there, and we add that name across the bottom, conversion goes up 40%. Now listen to me, that's 40% more revenue. That's 40% more subscriptions. Dave said brand made it better. Dave, you're right and you're wrong. I know you're not being completely serious, but let me use what you said and talk about that. Brand didn't make it any better at all. It's the same process. Brand made you feel better as you went through the same process. Because with the brand came an expectation for what you were going to get on the other side of this process, a constant reminder of what you were going to get on the other side of this process, and thus, by simply leveraging the power of the brand, we tapped into stored momentum. And I want you to know again that I need momentum. I've got to get this person moving. And the harder, the faster, the greater the momentum, the more likely it is they'll roll over friction. They'll roll over difficulties. And you want to help them roll over those difficulties by not only reducing the friction, but by increasing the momentum. So this is why brand becomes powerful. And this is why if you're a professional person on this call and your name is synonymous with your brand, don't give it up. It's the power driving people through that piece. Now, I want to tell you to the third point, and we're running out of time. All right? The third point is motivation. In fact, let's just go back where you can see them. Okay? So all the way back up, there we go. Motivation as internal draw, brand as stored equity, and your VP, your primary value prop. What do you think that is? It is engineered velocity. The value prop is engineered velocity, carefully constructed to get me moving up the funnel against gravity and all the other distractions and forces that are determined, that conspire to keep me from getting through all the way to completion. So what you first need to understand is this applies to every funnel. You've got to build your brand. You've got to find the people with the highest motivation, and then you've got to create maximum velocity through the proper, forceful articulation of your value proposition. Is that making sense to you? Are you following the logic of this? Now, I want you to understand it because I want to take you to the next point, and the next point is where we can unpack and apply this to the way you're writing your copy. This is the ground clearing work that I needed you to understand. This is the force that you need to lever to get people through your funnel. Any questions? And does this make sense to you? And you're following the logic of what we're doing? Just use your chat feature and give me some feedback, because I'm going to shift down now really hard and into these 4 points. All right. So now we want momentum in our copy. And the first thing we want is to understand that want is superior to should. So I'm going to erase this. And I want to tell you that too much of our copy is telling you or telling me what I should do and making grand claims. It's all declaration and exclamation. And it does very little to provoke in me the want. And I need that want to wake up like a raging fire inside of me, if possible. And that needs to be tapped into the messaging on your site. So to understand how all of these pieces come together, the first thing you need to understand is that when I write copy, the design of copy is not to tell people what they should do or what you want them to do. It's not to make claims about how amazing you are. It's to stimulate a want. Want is always superior to should. Want gets a whole person. Should gets that part of me that is agreeing to do something I probably don't actually want to do. Now, what I want to do with you to explain that with Ian Fleming is ask you a question. You don't have to physically answer this on the chat feature, but how many of you watched a Bond movie? Because every Bond movie follows a very careful formula. And if you study the way Ian does it, here's what happens. The movie comes on in the middle, not at the beginning. It comes on in, actually, let's call this scene, or this, this is a powerful, dangerous, horrific condition that our hero finds himself in. And the movie starts not at the beginning, that would be here, but it starts right here. It's almost too late. It's almost over. He's not going to make it. The car's going to burn up. The ship is going to crash. The bad guy's going to kill him. He's right there in that terrible spot. And what he does is the movie opens there. Why? Tell me why it opens in the middle of action that is dragging you forward. Somebody tell me. I'm watching your thing. Story click. This is different than story click, but it's a good point. Story click pays in. But what we first need to do is establish who the hero is and make you care about what's going to happen and get you to that point where you move from curiosity to suspense. Curiosity is what's going on here. That's the thing you see, and that's what goes on in your mind, that first moment. Then when you realize, and all of us know who he is, and we already identify with the character. Oh, it's that guy, and he's in this spot. And we want to know how it's going to turn out. Suspense wants to know how it's going to turn out. And these two lever me right forward into the arc of the new story. This is almost like the ending of a different mission, but it probably has unfinished business. And somewhere in here, he gets recruited to go on his next mission. And every time it builds to a crisis. And as soon as the crisis is resolved, another one builds. And then another one builds. So that you are constantly being pulled forward through the story. And in doing so, you are wanting to know what's going to happen, and it's your desire. It's your desire to know what's going to happen, that suspense, that keeps you moving through the story. Now, if I go to the theater next week and there's a James Bond movie playing, and it doesn't start this way, I'd be surprised, because that's a formula created by Fleming and played to the max in his characters, in his plot and books, and eventually his films. But I would stay. Why? Because the brand is so powerful, I would wonder, what are they going to do different? What's going on here? I believe from the power of the brand that I'm going to have a certain kind of movie-going experience. That's the same thing that sells Mission Impossible tickets. This point is that brand doesn't actually do anything. It just is there as a condition in the form of an expectation inside of me, and that expectation is enough to hold me for a while. There was a time when Arnold Schwarzenegger couldn't make a movie that wasn't a blockbuster hit, and then he turned out the last action hero, and his brand plummeted. He's never recovered. The expectation was disappointed. Now, good copy is going to follow the same thing. It's going to not simply say things, it's going to draw you forward in a series of hooks and loops. And those hooks and loops keep me reading, keep me experiencing what's happening. And so here's the point I want to make for all of you that are trying to understand this first piece. Want is superior to should, and people are drawn up to the funnel by the power of your value proposition expressed in a way that taps into their want and makes them want to know more, possibly so they can make a better decision and eventually so they can make the purchase. This begins with curiosity, it converts to suspense. And so in this kind of thinking, your headers become amplified hooks. They are the hook that makes me want to read what comes next. And if they're not doing that, if they're just sections, if there's just boxes stacked on top of each other, you're not pulling people through your content. So let's go to an example in just a moment, but I want you to see the fourth point before we do. Resolution as seeded transition. I need that printed. Resolution as seeded transition. That is, as you start to solve this, you transition to the next piece by giving them a desire to know what's coming next. And with that in mind, let's go to one of those web pages you pulled up. All right. Flip your FFL Bound Book to full auto. ATF record keeping at its best. I think that's a handgun underneath there. And I think your average customer probably knows what the FFL Bound Book is. I think that you have now gone from flip your FFL Bound Book to full auto, and you've used curiosity in the wrong way. Now, I'm just trying to help the person who did this page, and I'm going to cash in what I've been teaching, and it might be good for you to send in some pages for me right now, but I want you to start to see the principle here. So let's look at this. In a headline, there is a form of curiosity that is acceptable, and there's a form that's not. Here's the form that is acceptable. You say something that makes me curious about the solution, and I might want to try that solution or at least investigate further. The goal of the headline is to get me into the conversation below. You know this. However, the goal of the headline in terms of employing curiosity is not to make you stop and think, what are they really trying to say here? Flip, FFL, full auto requires me to step back and say, what do you mean? Now, a headline that focuses with curiosity on meaning doesn't aspire curiosity. It provokes friction, and it makes me resist, and I don't have time to waste on it, and so I move on. So if you look at that site, we have a headline that's using a curious phrase, and it's got a sort of a turn of the phrase, and agencies love to do this. Agencies, stop doing this. It hurts the sale. What does full auto mean? I think I start to get a sense when it says ATF record keeping at its best. We somehow think that marketing is about clever phrases. It is not. Marketing is a martial art, and it's a soft style martial art. And when you deploy it properly, you can help people draw conclusions that promote decisions that change behavior. And when you start a conversation out, you wouldn't walk up to somebody on the street and say something nonsensical or so layered with extra meanings that they have to stop and look at you and try to figure out what you're talking about. I want curiosity to be levered towards the product, its value proposition, and how it serves my needs, not in the way I thought of some clever combination of words. Now, Dave Fogel down here is saying, I don't understand what record keeping has to do with a headline. I think most people don't. However, somebody, maybe their potential prospective customers do, but we're going to work through the page and the site, and I'm going to apply what we talked about today. So what's first happened? Let's call this a James Bond movie. What if the James Bond movie came on, and instead of seeing something you recognized, you saw a picture of a character in the background, and then you heard some sort of nonsensical, cliched phrase. And worse, you're not sitting in film where you have paid $10. You're sitting in front of a TV where you can just push one button and that movie's gone. I see nothing familiar there. And all of your communication comes from attaching something new to something familiar. That may be a gun in the background, but I have to look at it 3 times to figure out it's a gun. And full auto is the largest word on the canvas. And so what I see is a gun and the word full auto. And I miss what you're trying to communicate to me. Let's go to the next, let's scroll down. All right. A breakthrough in FFL Bound. I want you to just stop right there. Now, forget whatever is said there. Okay? But notice the header below. With Easy Bound Book, you have real resources. Does that make anybody here want to read the paragraph below? With Easy Bound Book, you have real resources. Is that compelling? No. Does it connect with the paragraph, that whole section above it, in a way that's clear? No. And why is there so much white space between the 2 paragraphs? You're like crying for me to stop reading. It's like you're trying to make it hard for me to keep going. You're sort of signaling to me that the main message is over. And then underneath that, look at the button. Watch more videos, Easy Bound Book. What the hell does Easy Bound Book have to do with more videos? Is this a video about the Easy Bound Book? I can't tell that. And if so, make it clear. And how is that different than the video there? Is this going to take me to a page of more videos? This is not curiosity working for you. This is frustration coming in the form of friction. See how easy your bound book should be. Now, what does that mean? Now ask yourself, what conclusion do you want me to make, and what move do you want me to make when you put that phrase in front of me? Do you want me to click on the video to the left? If so, it doesn't connect. Is that to get me to click on the button on the right? If so, that should be on the button. If I absorb that piece of content, what does it provoke in me next? Now, I'm not against this marketer. I'm for you, and I want to help you. But what you're seeing is something we're doing all the time on the internet. And I'm going to illustrate it because it's a terrible, terrible crime. And I'm seeing major conversion loops. I got a test going on right now for a company. I can't tell you who. Because it's proprietary. But we changed this kind of things, and we added a transitional spine. It said there are 5 ways, crystal clear. And then we gave them the 5 ways. Conversion's up over 100%. We're at 117% right now, and we've reached validity. I'm trying to tell you, this is not some sort of obscure principle, but here's what we're doing now. We put a box of information on our website, but we don't know what's going to sell them. We're just not sure. So we put a box of something else, and then we think, well, we need testimonials. Let's put a box of testimonials. And then we stack up all these cool features. And oh, by the way, we want you to know about this. And then we force people to come in here, and what they don't go box at a time slowly. They scan down to figure out story click. They scan up and stop where they see something that might be interesting. And we just hope that somewhere in that crazy journey, they get enough meaning to say yes. Well, that's not very good for people with low motivation. And it's not very good where you don't have a strong brand. And it's just not very good anyway. And it's what Apple did, so we all copied it. Now we're making websites with stacks of information unrelated and absent of transitions. Let's keep going. Go back to that page. Real quick. All right, let's scroll down. Now wait, underneath that, think about the pieces of information here. Go back up to the top. Forget the headline. Let's call that one piece of almost meaningless information. And there's videos way far to the right that nobody sees. But come down here. Here's another piece of information. Look how long the paragraph is. And then look how it begins. So let's just work on copy. What would get me to read that paragraph? Do you think starting with the word looking will get me to read it? Looking for the best electronic bound book for your FFL A&D record keeping? Look no further. Does somebody want to vomit? Because that's what this provokes. It provokes psychological vomit. I don't like how you talk to me. You're bragging. I don't trust you. I have no reason to read what comes next. It looks boring. It looks long. And why am I having to work so damn hard to figure out what you're saying to me? Now, marketer, again, if you're in our community, I'm not aiming this at you. I'm trying to help you feel what it feels like. I mean, the marketer's number one skill is empathy, and you've got to get inside this person and experience this frustration to fix this problem. Now, if I survived that whole paragraph and read all that, I get to the bottom of the paragraph and I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. Click a button, watch a video. Is that other thing clickable? Is that a link, that bold piece of link? And then there's just this empty white space, like I'm floating forevermore in my sound deprivation chamber, waiting for the next brilliant thought to hit me. What do I do next? With Easy Bound Book, you have real resources. What is that? Is that the same thing as the thing above it? And if so, what am I reading this? And let's look at the paragraph just for a second. Look how it starts. Easy Bound Book. I already know it's Easy Bound Book. You just said it in the headline. Easy Bound Book is an electronic A&D bound book available in the cloud or on your premises. I'm starting to get a piece of meaning. That could create curiosity if I could understand why and how that helps me, except it's buried way down here. Way down here. If you go to the paragraph above, easy compliance with ATF ruling 2001-6 from a reliable company who cares about our clients. Again, I know you're solving a problem. I'm very familiar with the firearms industry. And I know why you're doing this. I know it's a need, and it's probably a very good solution. The problem is your website isn't doing you justice because your copy's not doing you justice, and the copy's not doing you justice because you're failing to account for the 5 things above. Let's go to 17, slide 17. Let me just show it to you again. We're almost done. We're going to look at another site if you'd like me to. Want as superior to should. Tell you what, I'll take the next page that comes in. I got more. There's more in our browser, but I'll take the next page that comes in and I'll give it a minute to look at this with you and to try and help you. So put it in real quick. But I want to point out these principles. Make me want to know what comes next. Don't make me feel like I should. Use curiosity as a force to draw me forward. Think of each of your subheaders on the page as hooks, amplified hooks, to make me want to read what comes below, and they have to connect with what was above. So it's like a flowing conversation. And don't make it real clear how to resolve the tension of curiosity and move me to the next transition by connecting the thoughts in a way that makes more sense. Tell me there's 7 reasons why, and give me all 7. Tell me there's 3 ways to shop, and tell me the 3 ways to shop. Tell me that you're going to give me the most important thing you've learned in 30 years of being an X, and put that right in front of me. Tell me there's a horrific error being made all over the world by the working middle class, and they don't know it, and it's costing them $500,000 of their life. Or, on and on it goes. Give me something that sets up what's coming next. Give me a spine to lay it and connect it to, then help me understand it that way. Give me a page. Have you got one up, Austin? Has anybody sent one in? I know what's just happened. Everybody that was going to give me a page thought, oh my God, I don't want him to give him a page. He's going to be mean to me. I'm sorry. I'll wait, but I don't see yet what's coming in. I'm going to slip to a page we have right now, so shift over very quickly, Austin. I think there's, all right, if you, let's see what we got next. Marketer, I may make a mistake with this live op. Tell me your take on this. I'm going to show you good pages. I've had people say that. I'm on your side. I just employ empathy, and I try to be hypercritical because that's what the prospect is going to be. All right, grow your business online. Get a 20-minute free consult. Did that just come in, or is that one we had pulled up?
Sorry, we just entered it.
All right, somebody just entered it. Good. I appreciate your courage, and I'm going to reward your courage. Who submitted it? Is it Sarvi? Sarvi, I'm going to reward your courage right now. That page is a piece of genius. There's not a thing I could do to ever improve it. Where do I sign up, and can you help my business today? And by the way, let's get everybody on here to sign up with Sarvi too. All right, let's go back. Let's look at it. Growing your business online. Get a 20-minute free consult. All right, and then your button is help me grow. All right, so we could talk about that, and marketers, let's help him. If you have ideas, he can read them on this chat. Put your ideas right in right now as I'm talking. Let's take these last few minutes and really help this person. Slide down now, Austin, and let me just see the rest of the page. Professional digital marketing services in Toronto. Sarvi, I'm going to be teaching in Toronto in January for 3 days. I'm coming in with an old friend of mine, Royal Bank of Canada, and we built their digital operations and marketing side. And if I get there, perhaps anybody in Toronto that's hearing this, let me know. Reach out to us. Maybe we'll get a chance to connect. But take a look here. Online strategy, pay-per-click advertising, search engine. Scroll on down. Marketing automation. What our clients think. Okay, so Sarvi, to keep this about what we're talking today, I'm going to say something first, and then I'm going to back into what I think is most important. What we have here is a good example of what I meant about Apple blocks. One block stacked on top of another block without a connecting sort of series of thoughts. There's no conversation. There is a series of modules that you put in front of me. And that's the first thing I would work on. It's the second thing I would work on. The first thing I would work on is this. Let's go all the way back up to the top. Marketers, I want to ask you a question. I want you to help Sarvi with this. Scroll back up. And how many of you today on this thing think that a 20-minute free consult is high value to you? I want you to give me an honest answer in the audience. Use your chat feature so that I can explain to Sarvi what I'm trying to say. There is a product level value proposition here for this 20-minute free consult, Sarvi, and you need, for me, to value that before I'm going to click on a button. And when I click on the button, it needs to say get your free consult, not help me grow. If that's what the button is selling, then the button needs to be sort of positive in its value and connect precisely to the 20-minute consult. But here's the problem. And I'm going to ask you a tough question. Even though I think you know a lot about marketing, I'm sure you wouldn't have all this going on, but I'm going to ask you a tough question. What is your value proposition? Because if I don't know your value proposition, I have no value proposition for the free consult. I want everybody listening to hear that. The consult's only value is derived. It's called a derivative value prop. It's derived from the value prop of Sarvi. And I don't see anything on here that helps me understand that. You're right about the blue on blue. You're right about the all caps. I'd be careful about the way the 3 fields are across there in front of the Help Me Grow piece. I believe your professional digital marketing services in Toronto is a title, not a headline. It doesn't draw me into the text below. The text looks like it's all bold. And the first phrase in your paragraph, Sarvi, is no one knows the internet better than us. Do you really believe that? And if you don't, do they, and why should they? And if you believe it, you probably would, talking to me, qualify it and explain what you mean when you say that. Now, if it's true, don't claim it for yourself. Let somebody else make that brag. And you tell me in data and facts and specifics information that will help me to conclude that. But the paragraph beneath it is not going to get me convinced because everyone says that. I'm going to ask you a harder question, Sarvi, and hopefully this will help other people that are online. I know several marketing agencies and groups in Toronto. When I'm there, I've taught and spoke, and they all, I've connected with them. So let's assume I'm a customer in Toronto or wherever your market is. Why should I choose you? If I'm the ideal customer type for you, why should I choose you? Good call, Nick. Why should I choose you rather than any of those other companies that I already know are there and doing a good job? Is there an answer that comes to mind for that, Sarvi? And we're always learning. You can beat up MECLABS sites to pieces. I'm not proud of what they're up there right now. It's all getting ready to change again in the next round of tests. But, and Dave says that headline might be for SEO. Never let SEO get in the way of optimization. It doesn't matter if people come if they don't buy. Definitely account for SEO, but there's a way to account for SEO and not hurt the messaging. So I'm going to do here's what I'm doing in my last minute. Like in 60 seconds, I'm going to give 20 recommendations. I'm going to summarize everything I've said and say it really fast to try and help you. All right? Sarvi, is this helping? All right? Because I'm going to get very specific about what I do if this was my page now. Okay? And then I know that I did this with somebody in Australia last week. They've already sent me the new page. I'm thinking about taking your new page against your old page and talking about them on here. That's why I haven't made a decision yet. But for those of you that we helped last week, I appreciate the way you responded, and we're going to do what we can to give you back some good feedback. I'm going to now go to Sarvi and start with this. Grow your business online does not get me into the conversation. It feels like what every single little marketing shop out there says. Get a 20-minute consult, doesn't matter yet. It's the wrong thing to lead with because I don't know enough about you to know that the concept's valuable. And 20 minutes doesn't seem like a value at free. Most people are not so busy that 20 minutes is, 20 minutes from Warren Buffett, maybe. 20 minutes from me, no. 20 minutes from Sarvi, maybe. But Sarvi, they don't know that unless you're a big name in that marketplace. I wouldn't use all caps. I wouldn't use the two shaded blues. If I use the button, I'd make sure the button connects to the message. So you need to give me a reason at the top of this page to get into what's below, and that's all. You're not selling your business. You're selling attention. You're getting me to give you enough attention for me to communicate enough of the value prop that you can get me at least interested in reaching out, raising my hand. Go to the next page. Go slide down. Professional digital marketing services in Toronto is wonderful, but it's a header. It's not a headline. It doesn't make me want to read anything below. There's lots of professional digital marketing services in Toronto. Why should we give this one the time of day? It's not clear. That paragraph shouldn't be centered like that. It's too long a paragraph to be centered. It's hard to read when they do that. And it doesn't say the right things. No one knows the internet better than us. That's not a good thing. At Register IT, we offer a host of digital marketing services. So does everyone else. To businesses in Burlington, Milton, Toronto, and Oakville. So does many other people. Whether you need to begin developing the online presence of a brand new business or need to boost your sales with custom campaigns that harness the uniqueness of our company, this is pure marketing speak. There's no human touch here. There's no connection here. And there's no real content in this. You move from that to three things that might be three offers. They might be three divisions. I'm not sure what to do with them. Is this for me to self-sort? And what's the difference between call us, read more, and read more? Why is one call us and the other two read more? And it would be much easier. Let me give you an example, Sarvi, and to the whole audience. Let me give you an example of how you do a transition here. You say there are three primary areas we can help you with. And then you give me 1, 2, 3, and you lay it out clearly so I understand that. But right now, it's like a giant obstacle stretching across the page, daring me to go any further and giving me no meaning. Look, online strategy, just a title. It's not a headline. Pay-per-click advertising, search engine optimization. If you said there are 3 ways we can help you, then I'd understand titles. But those are right now serving as headlines. They're just not good headlines. And underneath it, again, big paragraphs. Look at online strategy. We are an SEO company with a difference. Now, every SEO company out there wants to say that. I need the difference. Lead with the real difference. And it better be compelling, or else it's just noise. Scroll down. I'm trying to help you, and I want to go as fast as I can. I have another title, Marketing Automation. Stop. Okay, is that different than the other 3? Do you do 5 services? If that's one of your other services, why isn't it in a box like the rest of it? Why isn't it in its own separate box? Is it something separate, special, or outside? I don't even understand. And again, back to that sort of marketing speak. Take the stress out of marketing your business with our comprehensive marketing automation solution. What's comprehensive? Do you do more than HubSpot? Do you less than HubSpot? Do you do more than, this is, comprehensive is one of those words when we don't have a word. and it doesn't produce any distinct meaning. Now, what our clients think, I wouldn't call it what our clients think either. I think that doesn't communicate the message you're trying to say, and there's too much white space between that and when the testimonials begin. However, if you got 3 really strong stories, I would create rich content around those stories. I would turn those quotes into amazing articles showing what was before, what was after, how you did it, why it's different. And then I would probably create a download on this page to let people download those case studies and learn the 9 most important things. And I would have Tabitha in that. I would have Nick in that, explaining what they learned from working and make this valuable. Or we've surveyed our partners and discovered that all our clients, and we've discovered that the top 5 clients have these characteristics in common, and this is the key to success in working with us. Or, you know, if you're going to select an agency in the Toronto area, you got to give me some value and use that value and content to build authority. This should be a content marketing play, but it's not. So I want to stop there. Sarvi, is that somewhat helpful? If you want to work on some of that and put it in front of us, we'll look at it. And for the rest of you today, I just want to remind you, you need to work on frontal momentum. And the keys to this is the stored sort of velocity of a brand and motivation and the power of your value proposition. Then when you lever that to a page or a funnel, this is not a funnel, this is just a page. Let's assume there's a funnel after this, but to get me through the funnel and to get me to read the copy, you need to elevate want over should. You need to use curiosity as the form of the draw. You need to use headers as amplified hooks. And you need to take each resolution of a tension set with a new transition driving me to the next piece of content. Does that make sense for everyone here? I appreciate your time. Today was a unusual day for me. I don't feel well. I hope it went well, so I'd like to get some feedback from you. Thank you. I appreciate you participating in all 3 of these. We got some interesting things coming next week. A big surprise, actually. Thanks. Take care.